So I'm here today talking with Samba Schutte. How is it where you are, Samba?
It's great. I'm in Los Angeles. It's beautiful, sunny weather. We had a little bit of a heat wave this weekend. It was up in I go by Celsius. It was like 35 Celsius, which is, 100 Fahrenheit, 90 Fahrenheit. So it was nice. I'm from the desert, so it felt good.
Oh, cool. I'm in the South, so it's pretty much always hot here, so that sounds great to me. So my first thing to talk about, I guess the only thing I'm talking about, is Our Flag Meets Death. But like the first thing that I want to just quickly get off, because I know everyone's asking about it, do you know anything about Renewal?
I wish I did. None of the cast do. We were all in this big group chat, and we're all asking one another, have you heard anything? Have you heard anything? I'm sure the executives know, because I think the delay has been in the merger with Warner Brothers and Discovery. That's just taken time, reshuffling the positions and scheduling and whatnot. I'm hoping that's what it is, because from a business point of view, I would say it's very smart if they do renew the show, just because of the incredible response from the fans and the fan art and creativity is generated and the buzz, and the fact that we've been the most trending and number one talked about show in the U.S., beating out like Marvel shows and DC shows. And so that's just fascinating on its own, and I think it came as a surprise to all of us. So hopefully they're busy. This week is the upfronts, and hopefully they're all talking about how they can make it work. But I can tell you one thing, none of us know anything, which is just so frustrating.
I see. I know from like personal other work stuff, I know how that feels, so not knowing anything. So fingers crossed.
We all want to do it. It's just we had so much fun the first season, and bringing these characters to life. And the show is so positive and inclusive and representative, and we'd love to do it again. I know all of us really do.
And I have a lot to ask about the fandom and stuff, but before I do that, I wanted to just ask, what was it like for you playing Roach and developing this character?
It was amazing, because I had heard about the show a year before it was actually cast, and so I was so invested in trying to be a part of it. And finally, when I got the audition for it and I saw that it was for the cook, I was incredibly excited, because I'm a cook myself. In fact, for the audition for Roach, I was wearing my baking apron that says Samba's Kitchen, and I told the producers, hey, I'm a baker too. And they didn't say where he was from. They didn't give any kind of other information other than he's strong, he's cool, and I just wanted him to be a bit unhinged as well. And I made him Northwest African. So I'm from Mauritania myself, which is in the Sahara Desert. And I really wanted to represent that, because back in those days, you had pirates from there who sailed with the Spanish, and then the Spanish eventually ended up in the Caribbean, and this takes place in the Caribbean. So I was like, why not make him someone who's just survived ship after ship, and then finally just decided to become a pirate, because the number one person who survives any kind of attack is the cook and the doctor, because they need that on a pirate ship. So I think that's why he became so skilled in what he does, because of survival. His name's Roach. Cockroaches love to survive, and so he would do anything to survive. And so if you're a good cook and a good doctor, you will survive. And so I think that's what I made him want to be, just someone who's a survivor, someone who's really skilled at what he does, but also is not afraid to be a little unhinged and piratey after seeing so much.
And there was one scene in particular that kind of shows your character's varied abilities, where you're trying to hack off another character's finger. And from what I know about that scene, some of that scene was also improv as well.
Absolutely. So it's the scene where chopping off, or trying to chop off Lucius's finger, which has been infected by Buttons' rotten teeth. Yeah, the scene was basically, okay, you're going to try to chop his finger, and then he runs off. And then there was no button to the scene. Just the guy would run off, Lucius would run off. And so I was like, okay, I got to come up with something to end the scene. And because Roach is someone who loves torture and loves just having some action as a doctor or a pirate or a cook, I was like, okay, so I'm just going to come do the line, this is all a dream, come back, this is all fun, we're having fun in games, just maybe chop off a limb, just that kind of thing. And they kept that in the script, so that was a lot of fun. And there was more to that scene that got deleted, which is like, we tried to hold him down and sedate him, and then Black Pete over sedates him, and Lucius accidentally dies and comes back to life real quick and then runs off. So it was just a lot of fun playing with that. And I enjoyed all the scenes where I got to either be a cook or a doctor. Unfortunately, not all of it made it onto the screen, but there's this scene in episode 3, I believe, when I'm rowing away toward the Spanish ship with Fred Armisen and Steve Bonnet and Reese Darby and them were in that little boat rowing. And I made an assortment of tapas for the Spanish. And then I say that's like catnip for Spaniards. And then Fred Armisen goes, yeah, I know what tapas are. And then I proceeded to just list all the tapas I had made. Like I made bocaro and roquetas. It just went on for 5 minutes, and the director was Spanish, Nacho Vigalondo was the director. And he was like, keep naming all these tapas dishes you made. Just keep going. And so it went on for 5-6 minutes of me just listing every kind of dish I knew. And it really helped to develop the character to be like, okay, this guy's actually a skilled doctor and a skilled cook.
And your description of that scene's like a bookend to Buttons listing off all the sea creatures that he...
Yeah, even naming the Loch Ness Monster, you know. But that's just the free-range improv they gave us. We embraced our characters, and they're like, okay, so what else can you come up with? What else can you come up with? And Taika was really instrumental in setting that tone in the pilot when we were shooting it. He was like, okay, great, and what next? Say something else. And so that really got us loose in thinking.
And it seems like that kind of spirit clearly was throughout the show, because it just seems like a light, fun... It just seemed like a fun set, and it seemed like that translated to the show itself.
And that everybody shines. Even though it's like a huge ensemble, everybody has a moment in their life, and we work really well together. And I'm glad that translates, and people can sense that not only do we have a lot of fun with one another, but we really like one another too. You know? Which is, always scary when you're doing an ensemble show. You always worry that one or two people might be drama queens, or might be too egotistical or have attitude. But there was none of that from the moment. We really bonded, and we were such an international and diverse group, and it just worked. We had so much fun with one another and really supportive of one another. And I'm so glad that everybody has a moment to shine.
And that was actually, the diversity of the cast was one of the things that struck me, because along with the queer representation, which I'll get into a little later, the racial and ethnic diversity is something that people are talking about it in the industry in Hollywood, but it's rare to really see a show that fully embraces characters as characters and not as, I am the Black person, I am the Asian person.
Absolutely. And we never really talk about race or how a person looks in this show. We don't mock people who are slightly, bigger or smaller. We don't mock anybody. And I really love that the show just embraces hey, this is just a show about people, and just see them as people and not as, okay, this is the New Zealander playing Blackbeard, and this is the Maori guy playing, it's no, we're who we are. And I hope the industry learns from that too, that we don't have to be like, okay, now we have a Black lead, so we have to tell his Black story and where he comes from, and no, just let him be the guy.
And points in the show when, I guess, racial things were touched on, I did like how the show, clearly, even though the show is set in 1717, it's clearly speaking to a modern audience to be like, okay, this is what actually... some of this stuff was not cool, and we're gonna address it and make fun of it.
Yeah, especially with the British and the colonizers. I just love that we were able to poke fun at them and make them look like the real ridiculous people with their motivations and innuendos. And I love that. That's my favorite scene, when we're at the dinner table trying to fit in the tea party scene with the British, and then just can't hold ourselves in because they're so racist.
Yeah, and some other favorite scenes of mine regarding that is when the crew, or part of the crew, gets captured by the native people of the island that they are vacationing at, and they have the trial, and also with the ship scene where Blackbeard is trying to attend that party and he gets roasted by everybody, and the whole Nigerian Prince.
Scam pyramid scheme. Yeah, I love that commentary, because it just shows it takes place in the 1700s, but it's just commenting on our modern kind of take on how we see things. And the fact that the Native Indians, stop being so racist. We're not cannibals. We're just as educated as you. Or you're the pirates. You keep killing us. You're the white people who keep killing us. So of course we've learned our lessons. Or that someone who looks like Taika can't fit in a French aristocratic ship just because of the way he looks, and that he's not all dolled up and dressed up the way they are, or knows their kind of humor, or how to eat with 1,000 forks. I love that the show just touches on all of that, and then just shows that there's always going to be discrimination and racism and people judging one another, but at the end of the day, they all lose.
Yeah. And even, like, having someone like Taika play Blackbeard. I know if this was, like... I guess if this was any other show, there'd be, like, people up in arms being like, Taika can't play Blackbeard. He's not from the UK or whatever. But he absolutely can play Blackbeard. And he's playing, like, a great version of this character who, like, we know in real life is, like, a horrible person. But, like, in this show, there's, like... layers to him, and he's a really interesting, like, layered character, how Taika has played him.
Yeah, because he's going through a midlife crisis. He's going through an identity crisis, and coming across Steve Bonnet helps him question his identity, his motivations, and his legacy. And that's a side of Blackbeard we have never seen, because he's always just portrayed as, I'm going to be the crazy killing pirate, and we didn't want that. Like, none of us talk like pirates in this. None of us wanted to be the stereotypical stories that have already been told. And because we don't know what these characters look like, there's only hand-drawn drawings of them. So who says that Blackbeard couldn't have been a darker colored man? Who says that they couldn't have had this heritage? And so I just love that the fact that it's not, we never address it, we just accept it. And that's something that should just be done, because it just goes to show that it's not only one race that can play one kind of character. It should open it up. And shows like Bridgerton have done that as well. And I embrace that. I embrace that as long as you have a very interesting take on this character and you're the right fit for it, which Taika is absolutely 100% for Blackbeard, then go for it without having to make it a whole thing. Just accept it. Yeah.
And I guess this brings me to the relationships on board, the revenge with Steed and Blackbeard being, like, foremost and center of all the relationships happening on the show. What was it like, I guess, seeing... I know Rhys Darby and Taika are already, like longtime friends in real life. What was it like seeing them interact in that way, building these characters together and building this relationship between these characters?
Oh, it's magical. The first 3 episodes is just us and Rhys, and it just goes to show, like, how inept he is as a captain, as a pirate. And then as soon as Taika comes into the picture with episode 4, and he starts interacting with Rhys, then you see that, oh my God, when these guys are together, it's magic. Yes, because they have history as friends and have been in a lot of things together, but they just know one another's style of acting, and it was just fascinating to see them finally play more dramatic characters and have comedic characters, but also have dramatic moments and really lift one another up. And the improv they would come up with, like when it was just the 2 of them, it was just fascinating to see. And you can see a bit of that in episode 7 with when he's picking up the snake meat from Blackbeard's beard, and they're talking about Blackbeard's bar and grill and fishing. That's all improvised. And there was so many other scenes like that. And unfortunately, I'm sure there's a blooper reel somewhere where it's just them riffing off one another, really lifting up one another, and watching that and just being a part of that. It was like being at a party. You could, can I jump in? Everyone wanted to play because they really created that energy and lifted each other up to be able to feel confident in their dramatic approaches to the characters and the scenes. And I think they pulled it off beautifully. It's just when they're on screen together, it is magic.
And there's so many... What's so great for me is that there's so many types of relationships that we don't normally see on television, and I feel like it's like past time that we actually like put these kind of relationships on TV. But we have a non-binary character with Jem, and we have their relationship with Oluwande and Lucius and Black Pete, and whatever stuff is going on with Izzy regarding Blackbeard. There's that level of what is happening with that, like almost S&M bondage kink type stuff. And it's just interesting that these types of dynamics haven't been on I say interesting, shameful, I guess, for television that this hasn't been until like this show that I feel like no one saw coming, and it's opened up the floodgates to be like, why is, if it's this easy to put on television, why can't more shows do that?
And I think it's just because more shows who have attempted to show this kind of queer representation have just been focused on the queer story and, okay, now this is the coming out story, or this is the person's family not accepting them or whatever. And then what David Jenkins did is like he skipped all that. He's like, they are. Mm-hmm. They are, just accept that they are. And we don't have to address that they are. There's one scene where Jim tells us, when we're like, are you a woman? Are you a man? And then they just go, I'm just Jim. And we all accept it and move on. And we use the pronouns moving forward after that. It's just what it is. And so I think that was just a breath of fresh air for everybody. Like, oh, okay, good. We don't have to go through the whole, and now they're going to come out and tell their families and address that. No, let's just cut to the chase. Let's just, okay, they are, move on. And I think it just, that's what I say, like it was just so embracing of everybody without being judgmental, and just showing that these characters are as human as any other characters in a world, so just accept them and embrace them. And I think the show was really just refreshing in that way, and I think that's why it appealed to a lot of people. And then there's of course the whole queer baiting argument, where we were not shying away from just showing romance. Like Taika said once, love is love. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. And I'm so glad that we have that representation, because love is love at the end of the day. And why shy away from that or be afraid of that if you're not a fan of this? And yeah, a lot of people might not enjoy that aspect of it, but at the end of the day, that's the message you got to be brave enough to put forward. And only by showing it can you change minds.
Yeah, sure. And even something as simple as, I was just thinking as you were talking, that when you were bringing up how people were trying to figure out if Jem was a man or a woman, and they just accept that they're non-binary, even their grandma, Nana, who's the nun, like, Jem says, I'm Jem, and she's just like, all right, Jem, come on down and we'll have some cake. And I just think the fact that she's a nun saying that, clearly a different type of nun than we're used to, but the fact that she's a nun saying that, and that Jem is just Jem, and she immediately uses they, them when talking about Jem, I think that's like really affirming. And it's easy to do this, and
it'll take some people some getting used to. For me, it was the first time I was using those pronouns, because Vico had a talk with all of us, and it was like, okay, just it happens. I go by they and them. And yes, it will take some getting used to. So if you slip up and you say she or he, it's fine, because this is what we're doing. We're learning to use these pronouns and just get used to saying them. And so, yeah, it took a second, but after a while, it's just, it becomes super easy. Just, this is it. And if you slip up from time to time, that's fine. The point is that you're trying to change the way we think and the way we address someone's identity. And it'll take time for some people to get used to. But I think what the show shows is, just accept it, move on, and just respect how someone wants to be addressed.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to, is just showing people respect.
And then just inclusion. And that's what the show shows at the end of the day. The overall message is, it's a sweet show. It's a positive show. It's a show that includes people. It doesn't exclude people. And it's basically a love story of someone trying to come to terms with their identity and try to be the best version of.
And I think with the queer baiting part, I think I read an interview that David Jenkins did, and he was surprised at how so many fans were like, is this really happening? Is this, like, they were like literally being like, are you really doing this? Is this really going to happen? And I can tell you, as someone who's been in like hardcore fandoms where it seems like there's a queer central romance and it never happens, it's almost, and like one thing I wrote in an article that I wrote about the show is that I'm frustrated, and I have straight privilege and things like that, and if I'm frustrated, I can't imagine how someone who this is their life, I can't imagine how upsetting that would be, to have like your life basically teased in front of you, and then someone saying, oh, we're not gonna do that. And it was shocking. It shouldn't be shocking, but it was shocking to me when episode 7, really, when the whole beard getting the food out of the beard scene happened. I was like, okay, they're doing something. And then when the actual kiss happened in the later episodes, I was like, what? This actually happened?
Yeah.
And
it broke the internet for a second.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad it did, because why not? Like you say, there's just been so many times where something's been promised and then taken away from people's hopes, and just, can you please just show us without fear, without bashfulness, without being afraid of what other people will think and stuff. And this show is just showing that, hey, this happens to be two friends who find one another in a midlife crisis, doubting their identities. They fulfill one another's interests and passions, and they invigorate one another's motivation to live and to be the best versions of themselves, and they happen to fall in love.
Mm-hmm.
And boom, they kiss. So how many times have we seen straight people do that?
Mm-hmm.
Or why should this be any different? Love is love at the end of the day. And then the story moves on without making it such a big deal. And I love and I appreciate that. It just shows, hey, we're all human at the end of the day. So stop being so afraid of showing love and inclusivity, because
Mm-hmm.
everyone needs to feel seen on a screen, because that makes a huge difference. Mixed race, but I got cast as an Indian guy for a long time because no one knew what North Africans or West Africans look like or mixed kids look like until Trevor Noah comes along, and they're like, oh, it's possible to have white and black mixes and have a weird accent and come from somewhere else and still be on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes time for people to change their perspective and to feel that once you feel seen on a screen, then it opens up a whole world for you. So I'm so glad that people felt seen through this show, and I hope it opens up a whole new world of creativity and inclusivity as a result of that.
Right. And that brings me to the fandom. Like, the fandom, the research that I did after I watched all of Our Flag Meets Death, and I was trying to see what the fandom was feeling about the show, I saw how a lot of people were saying how the fans were happy and loving the show, and then once the kiss happened, then it was just like skyrocket of fans being like, wow, this actually did it. It actually did what it promised. And ever since, it's just been like, I've just seen so much fan art, so much fan fiction, so much cosplay, the cakes.
It's incredible. Yeah, we're reaching 550 cakes now. This orange cake that I baked after I released the recipe, it's going to be 4 weeks this Friday, and there's already 550 orange cakes baked, or different iterations of it, and not to mention the thousands of pieces of fan art and fan jewelry and fan crafting and stitching, costuming and fiction and writing, and it's just amazing. I think none of us expected it, and to see it, it's just, wow, you make something that resonates with so many people and brings out their creativity and makes them feel seen and wanting to be a part of it and express their support this way. It's just so, my jaw drops every day. I'm on Instagram or Twitter. It's just like, it's still going. And it's just such an amazing fandom. And much love to all of them, because they're the ones who are spreading word on the show and getting people to get, what is happening? What's all this art? What is it? Because of them, people know about the show, and we so appreciate it. And it's just so moving to see that a show can bring so much creativity out of everybody.
Mm-hmm. And I did want to talk about the cake part specifically, because I know you bake, I know you're a baker, and it's just interesting that, like you said, that your character is also a cook and you're a cook as well. What does it mean to you to have the fans taking your orange cake recipe and recreating it like 500 times over?
It's incredible. It's based off one line in the movie, in the series, where we're out of oranges, and it's because Steve made Roach bake a 50 orange cake. And that part was a little improvised, because the original script said 40 oranges, and then I added the 10 for the glaze and all that kind of stuff with Reese. And he knows I bake, so he's like, okay, stop going on about your cakes. It barely tasted of oranges, if I say so myself. And I just wanted to create what the cake would be. So I came up with the recipe, and I posted it on Easter, and I posted the cake photo on Easter, and then immediately fan art started to happen about the cake, because there was no visual of the cake in the show. And then after that, once I posted the recipe, like cake after cake, people started baking and making it. And it's just such a, I love baking. Baking brings me so much joy. It's like what I do when I need to, it's like my meditation when I need to process things or feel good. I love making something, creating something, and sharing it with other people. That's why I created a YouTube channel with some baking recipes called Baking with Samba during the pandemic, just because I was like, you know what, just let this bring joy to some people. And I posted some recipes on there. My favorite thing to do is ask somebody what their dream flavors are, and then try to come up with a cake based off, or a dessert based off that. So when I designed this orange cake, I was like, okay, here, I'm going to share it. And I had no idea that so many people were going to make it. How many oranges have been used in the past month to make 550 cakes? It's just so incredible. And the fact that people are enjoying it and that each one is so different just goes to show that it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, just express yourself in your own creativity and uniqueness. And you see that beauty reflected in this wall of orange cakes. My Twitter timeline is just amazing.
Yeah, you're literally supporting the entire orange industry right now with, and I think I have about 3 more questions. I think with everything that's happened with the show, like being at #1 for 7 weeks now, which is a feat in itself, beating out, like you said, Moon Knight and like Euphoria and big name shows. What do you feel about the legacy of the show so far and just how people have embraced it?
I think none of us expected it to be this big in terms of response. I think we started out just wanting to make a sweet show and a silly show about pirates and someone trying to be the best version of themselves that they could be. And then it just took off to this other hemisphere, and it's just been so wonderful to experience that and see that. Like I said, we have a chat group, and we're just sharing each other's awe of the response. And if anything, it's left a legacy of inclusivity and doing something joyful and fun without making fun of one another. It's a sweet, feel good, positive show. It's like someone called it, I think, the Ted Lasso but with pirates, whatever, And what that means to me is it's something sweet, it's something uplifting, it's something positive that makes you feel good, especially with everything going on around us right now. I think we need more of that, and for people to feel seen and feel appreciated and feel respected that's what you want to do as a creative artist.
I think that's definitely true, because like I've seen so many fans write letters, like sending them to the Twitter pages of the stars of the show, including you, like seeing people talk about how it has helped reaffirm them and help them have courage to either come out to their friends and family or to just be themselves or go for that thing that they thought they couldn't do. It's really done a lot for people, and like
it's so moving to see that it's helped people realize either their identity or come out to their families or just embrace who they are and their uniqueness and their talents. With the cake thing, it's like some people who've never baked before attempted baking, and some people who've never drawn art before have attempted drawing and written. So it's like really encourage people to take a step and feel like being themselves, expressing themselves, and it's just wow that a TV show can do that.
Yeah.
A small little TV show, silly pirate show can do that.
Yeah, and I'll say, like, personally, I just remember like hearing people online being like calling it in a loving way, saying it's that gay pirate show. And so it's like, well, people keep talking about this show, so I'll just watch it just on a whim to see what it's about. And I was completely blown away. Like, let's see if I can say this really quickly. I have had my dad pass away last year, unexpected. Thanks. And it's been really tough. And like with everything happening, like it's tough to weather one storm, and then you have to weather the other storms that keep coming up, whether or not he would have been here or not. It's just, life gets really tough. And so when I was watching the show, after I finished watching the entire series, I was like, wow, I feel happy. And it was just like so weird to recognize, oh wow, joy. I haven't felt that in a long time.
Oh, that's nice to hear, and I appreciate that. And that's what I mean. That's what I mean by this is a sweet show. It's a feel-good, positive show, and there's so much going on around us in the world right now. It's just hammering down, especially after the pandemic. It's like just never-ending horror show out there. It's so
Right.
nice that there's something that's respectful of mental health and people's well-being and people's inclusivity and feeling seen and appreciated, and to put out some laughs out there and feel goodness. And I'm so glad that it had that impact on you and on so many other people.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Like I am glad that I saw this show, and yeah, I'm also glad. I guess I'm one of the fans that's like, hooray! Like this show exists. So like,
Yeah.
I'm really happy to have seen it, and
Thank you.
no problem. I think the last questions I have are basically just about you and your character. One question being, if we have the season 2 that we are hoping for, what do you see Roach doing in the future?
I'm going to stay positive and say hopefully we get our second season and we get to see these characters step into their identities more and be braver and better, because they're not supposed to be really good pirates in the first season. They are bottom of the barrel pirates that Steve Bonner puts together. They're not really pirates. And I think the situation they're in now after the end of season 1 is they have to step up and become a bit more vicious as pirates to survive and to either catch up with Blackbeard or find them or beat off the English or the Spanish. So I expect Roach to be a little more fierce. Right now they've been abandoned on some little dingy island and have to learn to steal and to get another ship or whatever. So I'm assuming they're all going to become more badass pirates, and I'd love to see Roach embark on a few adventures here and there, maybe with some of the other crew, Oluwande or the Swede or Frenchie. I would love to see how he interacts with some other characters some more, I think, when they're off trying to be more piratey and survive and catch up to Blackbeard.
Mm-hmm. And my very last question, since you are a baker, would you turn down, or would you ever turn down a chance to go on the Great British Baking Show? And how do you think you would do?
As Roach or as Samba? I love baking and I love watching baking shows. So that would be an amazing experience. I would never turn it down. I'd probably not last because some of those bakers on there are amazing. But it would just be nice to experience just doing that in some TV show and just bringing what I can bring to the table and being judged horribly by some British people who are politely turning me down to experience that.
Thanks so much for speaking with me today, and congrats on this series. Congrats on what I'm hoping. I'm gonna will this into existence, that there will be a season 2. So congrats on the season 2 that we know is coming. And it's just been great talking with you about the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Monique, and thanks for this opportunity to share some more of our story and our show. And thanks for supporting it and spreading the good word. And yeah, here's to season 2. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, indeed.